And now it's time for this hour's news review. The United Arab Emirates has invited Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to attend a UN climate summit in Dubai later this year. Well, the invitation to the summit comes as the Arab world is gradually warming to Damascus after a long period of cold relations since the 2011 breakout of a foreign-led militancy in Syria. The UAE reestablished ties with Syria in 2018. In March of last year, Assad visited the UAE on his first official trip to an Arab country since 2011. He also visited the UAE this year. Now, in March, Saudi Arabia also normalized its ties with Syria. The Arab League has also welcomed back Damascus, whose membership was suspended for more than a decade. Assad has also received an invitation to an Arab League summit in Saudi Arabia scheduled for Friday. Well, I'd like to welcome my guests to this news review. Laith Maruf, activist and political commentator out of Beirut, and Jamal Wakim, professor of international relations at Lebanese University, also out of Beirut. Thanks so much for being with me. Well, Laith, tell me the significance of now President Assad being invited to the UAE for this climate summit.
Well, clearly it is a UN organization summit held, so therefore this will be a confrontation between the UN organization structures that are dominated by Western powers and the local states that are trying to normalize relations with Syria. Already we hear the Americans really angry about the Saudi rapprochement with Iran. We heard today statements coming out from Saudi Arabia saying that they will not have any delay in this normalization with Iran or Syria. We've seen so many American officials visiting the Saudi capital over the last few weeks. And the summit on Friday of the Arab League will definitely solidify Syria's return to its rightful position in the organization.
Well, Jamal, your take. I mean, Laith just talked about the significance of this and that this is a UN-sponsored summit. I want to talk about that side of things. So what does that mean exactly? Does it mean that the United Nations has finally accepted the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Syria's sovereignty? Does it mean that it's going to be hands off of Syria? Or your assessment of it overall?
Well, I believe that Syria has crossed a long way towards normalizing its relations with the Arab states, and that's why that is best expressed in inviting the Syrian president to the Arab summit in Riyadh. And at the same time, this invitation by UAE is also a proof and evidence of the progress in Syrian-Arab relations, and of course Syrian international relations, and this expresses a victory by Syria over the US and Western attempts to isolate it and to suffocate the government in order to cause a regime change and collapse of the whole state altogether.
Well, Laith, are you surprised by the speed that we have been seeing this rapprochement in general in the region in the last few months?
Definitely, it would have been a surprise for everybody before the war on Ukraine broke out. We saw already some of the analysts that can understand the importance of the victory of Syria before the war on Ukraine started. Already analysts that could just see the future of the developments with Syria winning that war, that things are going to change because the world definitely was different after Damascus survived that war, and now we see the results of that victory of both the axis of resistance, the government in Syria and the military in Syria, and the Russian support for the sovereignty of Syria, what that meant to the whole world. And now, finally, we can see that the regional states that had for better of 80 years depended on American protection to guarantee their continuation, realizing that that boat has left, and now they need to figure out how to live with their neighbors like Iran and Syria and work together for a better future without the American presence here.
Well, what about that, Jamal? Your overall assessment of these regional changes, because as we see, the United States is not happy with what is happening and this rapprochement with Damascus. Do you see the United States putting more pressure on these other Arab countries? Or do you see these countries actually having learned a lesson long enough now that they can be adamant in trying to secure their own destinies and secure regional security?
Well, first, I believe that what we're witnessing in the region is a reflection, first and foremost, of the failure of U.S. policies in the region, especially in toppling the Syrian government in Syria and in leading the Near East, including Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, towards division as part of redrawing the geopolitical map of the whole region. And this led policies as part of the failure of the strategy of the United States. And we need to note here the infiltration of Chinese influence into the region, and of course Russian influence, which has limited relatively the unconditional influence that was exerted by Washington following the collapse of the Soviet Union and the socialist bloc in 1991. And now we're witnessing a new regional order as the reflection of the shift into a polar order. The things have not stabilized yet. We need to wait for a few more years until the international system stabilizes in order to see how, on what basis the regional order in the Middle East will be founded, and to know the limits and the dimensions of the role of each and every regional power within this this region.
All right, and on that note, I thank both of you for being with me. Jamal Wakim, Professor of International Relations, Lebanese University, and Laith Maruf, activist and political commentator out of Beirut. And thank you, viewers, for being with us on another News Review.